TTC is at the Belgian Grand Prix. That's right, we find ourselves fortunate to be at Spa. Each year we save up to travel to one of these and dedicate ourselves to beer tabs. I mean, hard-nosed research about motorsports and the tools used in them. Basically, my two favorite non-family things in the world. All up close and personal, and this year we're focusing on the box and stop. Yes, the motorsports pit stop. Who does it best, and does doing it the fastest make it the most impressive? We pose that question to you as we cover the top active time-costing pit stops in racing, according to us. In order of average elapsed time from slowest to fastest, we're going to have to start with Rally, or in this case, WRC. Some of the most talented drivers you're going to find on the planet also have some real standout mechanics to make that all happen, even if the clock isn't telling that story. This is one of the most tightly regulated service formats in all of motorsports. What we might refer to as a pit stop in WRC is called a service period. While not during a race or stage in this case, like all the others that will follow, unless the car received enough damage that the driver and co-driver need to repair it themselves. Though it's no less structured or penalized for when being slower than allotted for. 4 mechanics per car, driver and co-driver cannot touch the car during that service period. Typical periods might be around 15 minutes. Fueling isn't done during this period, and while that's the longest on our ranking today, boy can that mean a lot of disassembly and repair compared to nearly every other form of motorsports. And these are hard and fast limits. Going over comes with stiff penalties, so if you break off an oil feed line on your turbo during a stage and that thing's basically a doorstop now, your crew has to have had that process down pat to make it anywhere near the podium at the end of the day. Next fastest in motorsports we've chosen, it's going to be your Nora and Baja 1000, similar to Dakar, but no penalties for outside help. Stationary time can vary a lot, but a fast fuel and tire stop can be a couple of minutes, up to 5 minutes plus for some serious repairs, as the Donut crew found out in their maiden attempt at this race, which is fun to watch if you haven't watched that. Chase points are pre-designed areas along the course where support crews, also called chase teams, are allowed to access the route to perform pit services. Strategically located at points vehicles must pass during the race, accessed by off-roading support trucks or even helicopters at times when terrain requires it. You'll see refueling, tire changes, suspension adjustments, brake services performed in the dirt and in rough terrain, so lots of different off-road jack solutions needed. Chase vehicles leap ahead up front of the competing one on traditional paved roads, highways, service roads. Larger teams might have 2 or 3 chase crews deployed over hundreds of miles, so GPS navigation and coordination are crucial. If a chase crew misses the race vehicle coming through, that race vehicle may have to continue on without them and risk breaking down or getting a DNF. Due to this, chase crews can come away from a race week as fatigued or more than the driver and co-driver themselves. Next up in order of pit stop time is NLS, formerly VLN, or the Nürburgring Langstreckenserie. I don't know. Forgive me on the pronunciation, but if you follow or have ever seen Misha on YouTube drive cars at an insane level around the Nürburgring Nordschleife, this is the series he and the rest of his team race in. In a rare case here, there is no pit lane crew member cap, but most use 4 to 6 mechanics. High-end GT3 classes are faster though and have air jacks built into them. Lower classes use manual jacks for fuel and tires, longer when including driver changes as it's a multi-driver race. Some cars have pit stops intentionally lengthened to meet minimum duration requirements based on class and driver stint length. You'll see both center lock and 5 lug classes in this. Minimum stop times are applicable based on a few criteria. The longer you stint as a driver, the shorter your minimum pit stop time is to encourage longer stints. This is tracked via automation on the car's timing system via pit entry and pit exit. No standard pit boxes here. You have to set up and clear your own space. The minimum pit times here are used to bring closer the professional and more amateur classes and not make it too high risk or too expensive to compete. Formula E, last few years they didn't even come into the pits. They used to swap cars in the past, but new for this year is the pit boost. They still start with the tires they'll finish on in most cases, even in the rain, but only a couple months ago they rolled out the pit boost, a 565 kilowatt supercharged rate pit stop battery refuel that has a minimum stop time of 34 seconds, which means everyone stops for that 34 seconds, basically not too much to be gained by charging longer. It takes just a couple of seconds to stop and attach the car, so stationary, we measure typically 37 seconds. Will this spice up Formula E events? We'll have to see. All right, and next up in typical pit stop length is WEC, World Endurance Championship, your 24 Hours of Le Mans. Now, pit stop times are going to vary widely based on class, and there are a few of those. As it is an endurance race with long stints, fuel is going to be the most common along with tires, though they do brakes in about 30 seconds for as low as a 43-second total pit stop, which is pretty bonkers. Only 2 mechanics over the wall, 1 refueling tech, and 1 driver assist for door nets, helmet comms, and harness. So 2 to 4. They use air jacks, posts that come out of the floor of the cars. They employ class-based fuel flow restrictions, and driver changes can be key, as that happens many times throughout a 24-hour race at like Le Mans, but also Daytona and Nürburgring. Drivers may get out during fueling, but no pit crew can work on the car during that fuel, so they have a time-gated pit stop, which means fuel, then tires, and no touching the car before that. NASCAR ARCA Menard Series. If you're like me, you may not have known much about this series until old Cleetus started turning a wheel in it, and also like me, maybe you still don't quite understand some of these pit stop rules involved. They just sort of happen at some point. We looked up some of the published rule books for various events, and while it shares some rules with series like NASCAR Cup, 5 people over the wall, gravity-fed fuel cans, they have a minimum pit stop that you can't go under. For example, 63 seconds here, but that's from pit entry to pit exit on the road. It's about 36 to 40 seconds typically stationary time. Many teams don't have their own pit crew or a full-time pit crew, so it can be a 2 to 3 over the wall. And at certain tracks, especially short tracks, ARCA does not allow for competitive pit stop. Often designated pit windows where restart order is maintained and no refueling under green flag conditions, with very limited number of tires available to them throughout a race weekend. This is all to, of course, reduce the money advantage and have less safety concerns. Safety stuff is all quite expensive in itself, which allows for a lower barrier for entry, which is a good thing for a feeder series. After all, sometimes dollar for dollar, the race is best done, out on the track. Speaking of feeder series, ELMS, the European Le Mans series, with typical pit stop times of 25 to 40 seconds. All these races are 4 hours. You've got LMP2 and 3 cars out there, as well as GT3 cars. This is often a stepping stone into WEC. Le Mans or ELMS championships offer a automatic entry into the 24 hours of Le Mans. No minimum pit stop time here, but LMP3 and GT3 have minimum refueling times, and you can't change tires during refueling, which makes that wide stop time range we're showing here. You fuel during the driver swap, then tires. 1 refueler, 1 fire extinguisher person, 3 mechanics, and 1 lollipop man that releases them from the pit box. Driver changes add significant time to stops, as you cannot use the air jacks until the driver's door is closed. We're in the top 10 now with IMSA. The now WeatherTech IMSA series has got to be one of the most slept on motorsports series in America. Even going back to ALMS and old school like 80s IMSA, it's just distilled awesomeness in my opinion. And now with the GT road car looking entries homologated to GT3 class to be able to race over in Europe in WEC 24 Hours Le Mans, it's gotten even better. If you want to know how Cadillac is somehow showing up next year in F1, check out IMSA the last few years. If we're talking the whole shebang, tires, fuel, they of course have their driver changes that can be 45 seconds to a minute, but as low as 15 to 17 seconds for tires only, and with brake duct cleaning, windshield tear-offs, sort of everything in between, you do see some time range. 4 to 5 crew over the pit wall total. Only 3 can touch the tires, 1 fueler, 2 tire changers that tackle each corner at a time, and an air jack guy, so the cars do have air jacks in them. A 5th can only be used for driver changes and safety aids like harnesses, window nets, and closing the door. Some teams use a window net self-tensioner for faster removal and reassembly. Fuel flow restrictor based on class of the car. Can't hop off the wall until the car stops in the box. IMSA has no speed limiter button like almost all the other series, so drivers have to hold at or below 60 kph, 37 miles per hour, and penalties for speeding, touching the car before it stops, and touching the car during fueling for fire standards are pretty harsh and can cost you the race. Number 9, NASCAR Xfinity. If you ever missed the rapid fire zipping off of 5 lug nuts per wheel of old school NASCAR Cup, Xfinity is going to be your answer. A few years before NASCAR Cup stopped using 5 lug, they switched from the Ingersoll Rand Thunder Gun here to a Paoli pit gun designed for this sort of series. Lower torque, higher speed, and higher RPM. 5 crew allowed over the wall, plus maybe a window tear-off guy like in the Cup series. These guys will refuel a car and impact on 40 lug nuts in the period of just 15 to 20 seconds stationary time, carrying around a floor jack to each side with 2 guys per wheel taking off one side of the car at a time. It's pretty insane. These guns run on 175 up to, I'm told, 210 psi of nitrogen, which is less than the bigger body guns used like an IMSA that run at 290, 300 psi. But look at this RPM difference, 14,500 RPM. That's what you need when you're doing 5 per wheel instead of 1. Number 8, in the pure cool factor, just coming in hot here, this is the Australian V8 Supercars series, just 8 to 15 seconds. Depends on if a super stint and if 2 tires for one side of the car versus all 4 tires. Tires alone are most common, but they do sometimes fuel, sometimes even drivers changes during the enduros like Sandown 500 and Bathurst 1000. This is 4 tires, 6 active crew, 1 tire carrier, 4 tire changers, 1 refueler in fuel allowed races, 1 fire extinguisher, 1 lollipop man, and 1 air jack controller. So 4 basically working on the car, gravity fed fuel with strict flow rate rules. Most races require a tire compound change, and during the race they often see narrow pit lanes for these size of cars, such as Adelaide or Gold Coast, which can result in steep pit lane penalties for pit lane speeding or unsafe releases, which is hard when no tire blankets are allowed, and these are very cold tires they're leaving on. Debris removal and brake duct cleaning and just all-around gotta fix it attitudes are common due to the amount of tight racing and contact seen in the series, because they got no traction control, no ABS, solid rear axles with built-in camber. If you ever want to see what that looks like, it's pretty cool. Just 10 out of 10 hardcore Aussie fun. And in 6th place, we might have a sleeper you haven't heard of. Maybe you have Super Formula in Japan. This is the fastest open wheel car series out of Formula 1. Yes, quicker than F2, quicker than Indycar, around similar circuits. Here, refueling is allowed, but not often used due to the short race distances, 40 to 60 minute races being typical. This series uses 6 crew and often use some pretty slick acrobatics that you might not be surprised to find in a Japan-only racing series. They previously had minimum pit times like ARCA, but that was removed to make for more excitement and allow for the fastest to win out. Helping them to accomplish these crazy fast 6 to 12 second stop times are some pretty trick automated air tracks, not inboard on the cars to save weight and space on them. These use proximity sensors to activate and just require being pulled out of the way to leave the pit box. There's no DRS, basically drag reduction wings on these cars, so pitting may be your best window for an overtake. And tight pit lanes at tracks like Autopolis and Okayama can lead to stacking issues and congestion, so getting it right can make the difference. Rounding out our top 5, you might be surprised to see DTM. This racing series here, I'm not going to try to pronounce that, has bred some of the slickest looking 4-door homologation cars in the last 40 years or so. DTM is still alive and well, though has changed a bit. No longer a Class 1 touring car format and now featuring GT3 class cars. DTM is more of a sprint race single driver format and allows for just 4 tire changers, 2 per side of the car, and 1 guy in charge of the air jacks contained in each car. Refueling was banned in 2012 for safety concerns, and these cars have 1 mandatory stop per race that must occur in the specified window. 6 to 10 seconds is pretty rapid. But also just edged out by Formula 2 with a typical range. We sort of average a bunch of footage and data for this of 6 to 9 seconds. No refueling allowed, 7 crew members in total, though 6 are allowed to touch the car. This is one of the first series to use, and that you'll find still using exclusively cordless wheel guns. We did some testing on these made by Techway out of Taiwan for Paoli's cordless division. The early cordless wheel guns were a little bit slower, and at least in one incident, allegedly led to one car completely shedding its wheels and tires. Guns have since had more electronics and monitors added, and now the wheel guy will pull the gun off the car when a signal from the gun is shown and that it has reached its minimum torque threshold. But even so, these are some lightning-like stops when you consider each guy using the wheel gun is also the guy pulling the wheel off and the one installing the wheel on and responsible for signaling that task is all finished. A job that is both automated in F1 and those prior steps performed by 3 different people, so pretty good stuff. Down to the top 3, the podium places, we got IndyCar. IndyCar has got to be the top, like the fastest a full-service pit stop goes in motorsports. No other televised racing motorsports event with fuel and tires is going to be, on average, quicker than IndyCar. So quick that they have televised pit stop challenges at Indianapolis where pit crews go head-to-head. Stationary time here is on the order of 5 seconds for the quickest, even dipping down into the 4s, beating Formula 2. 6 to 7 seconds during the race is more typical. Sometimes these are tires-only or fuel-only pit stops with tight pit spots, being they have up to 33 cars like at the Indy 500. Limited to 6 over-the-wall members, heavy fire-rated suits and helmets for fuel fires, around 18.5 US gallons flow in 6 to 9 seconds for fuel alone, onboard air jacks built into the Dallara chassis, which is pretty neat at this level, and crew can wait for the car in the pit box, which speeds things up a little. On to the second step of the podium, we have a bit of a technicality, sure. I bet you were wondering with 2 left, how could there be 2 that you're thinking of? MotoGP, no tire changes or refueling allowed during green flag racing, but in inclement weather like rain, riders will come in to the pits to swap to a second bike that has rain tires and a rain setup on it. No traditional pit crew per se, but typically 2 to 3 mechanics, and takes usually 4 to 6 seconds, beating out IndyCar by not all that much, surprisingly. A fun tidbit of info for you though, maybe you can win a bet or a round of trivia at a bar with this knowledge now. Okay, and the fastest pit stop in all motorsports is gonna be no surprise. It's why I'm here at Spa, Formula 1. We're talking 20 to 22 active crew working on the car with 2 to 3 spare backup personnel for failed jacks or wheel guns. I mean, look at this gaggle of Nomex flocking around a car. 2 of them are there just to keep the car steady. I'm pretty sure one guy's job here is just vibes, but nah, 2 to 3 seconds, 3 seconds would even be not great. So 2 to 2.5 being the usual, you didn't mess up sort of time is just mental. These cars start with as much fuel as they're gonna use in a 2-hour race, so no more refueling. But even with an equivalent tire-only pit stop in 1990 being 8 to 9 seconds, and that's been cut down by a factor of 400% in this time. That's pretty impressive for the same task. In fact, a few years back, F1 pit stops got even faster at their best. We're talking 1.8 to 1.9-ish seconds, since some small regulations on wheel guns to incorporate automated sort of is it definitely on their tight sort of signals from the gun being sent to the green light drivers get as a signal to release now result in their fastest times being 2 seconds flat, which is, I mean, that's still blazing. And the latest wheel guns they use are no slouch either. In the garages, they don't use air guns. They use the Milwaukee 2867 1-inch pistol impact so they don't trip over each other's hoses in this tight space. They have more time in these scenarios, so don't need as much instant torque and can program these guns with one key for how many RPM and impacts per minute they want based on their typical trigger time to get that seating torque right. And in the pit box, hot pits, during a race, their air guns make 2 to 3 times the sauce of that thing, using the same 360 plus PSI of nitrogen like IMSA Paoli guns, but here we now have 14,800 RPM, so even a smidge faster than modern 5-lug NASCAR Xfinity guns, but with 3,100 foot-pounds. I mean, that's its peak torque, but based on data, they should have the first wheel completely off in about 0.6 seconds, so we're not talking a lot of impacting time utilizing this weird, super fast hitting, and yet at the same time neutral feeling, as it doesn't twist your wrist, low vibration tri-hammer mechanism used inside of these guns that we shot in high speed last year. It feels very weird, high power, and yet not that aggressive on your arm. In F1, there's at least 12 people touching the tires, 4 wheel off guys, 4 wheel on guys, and 4 wheel gun operators, 2 stabilizers, a front and rear jackman, sometimes 2 guys for adjusting the front wing angle with these long drills that rotate a set amount of position notches that you pre-select for when the trigger is pulled. It's like a well-orchestrated symphony and chaos all at the same time. And it's just one more reason to tune into F1 if you haven't before, now being a better time than ever with the backstory easy to access on Netflix with Drive to Survive and even a movie out in theaters now. Honestly, all of these wonderful motorsports series, each captivating in their own way, some equally or more impressive with their pit stops despite higher timer counts than others in my eyes, and really just out on a strictly business, hard-nosed journalistic endeavor such as ours, attending a Belgian GP. To get an up-close and personal look, gotta say thank you for coming along for the ride and making all the tool videos we make the rest of the year possible. Cheers, and happy race weekend wherever that weekend is for you.